Hello everyone and welcome to the Untitled Anime Show, where in this episode we review Shimoneta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist. This is an episode that is going to be chock full of innuendo, filth, and just lewd conduct all around. So if that is something that's against your sensibilities or you are still at a ever so tender age, maybe you click off of this video and go check out one of our other reviews. Maybe you'll find something that's more appropriate. But this is one of those animes that it's going to offend. So let's get a quick rundown from Sadar, as we always do. What's this anime all about?
Well, Shimoneta was based on the 11-issue light novel series Shimoseka. The anime series ran in 2015. It was an adaptation by the production studio JC Staff. It is a dystopian future where the Japanese government has decided to crack down on any perceived immoral activity, stretching from risque language to the distribution of, quote, lewd materials throughout the country, to the point that all citizens are forced to wear high-tech devices that monitor every spoken word and every hand gesture for any behavior that may be considered illegal. It focuses on a student named Tanukichi Akama, who has recently transferred to a new public school that is an elite school considered to be the most public, morally straight school in the country. But his excitement about being at this morally elite school is soon dashed when he is recruited against his will by the pervert terrorist Blue Snow. If you'd like to stream Shimoneta, you can find it on Funimation, Crunchyroll, or Hulu.
Yeah, so it's all over the place. It's very popular. It's just one of those things a lot of people haven't heard of it. I'm actually kind of surprised by. But Shimoneta is one of those, I think, little hidden gems that Duck is going to disagree with me with on.
A little bit.
So before we get to our scores, Duck, Sadar and I, have both seen Shimoneta several times. And we were going through, it's like, we are agreeing way too much. Duck is way too straight-laced to like this. Let's try that.
Good call.
So, without going into our scores, Duck, what was your overall impression of Shimoneta?
I feel like it's really close to saying something really, really important. Like it's an actual, like a good commentary on something that society could be, but then it ruins it with all the jokes.
What happened to your girlfriend during this?
So if you guys watched our video for Ancient Magus Bride, my girlfriend put her book down and started watching the show with me. For this one, she made me move her reading chair into another room so she didn't have to be in the presence of this show. She was utterly appalled.
Well, you said something very important there about it being a social commentary, and it really is, and I'm going to comment on that a little bit later, but let's get to our scores, because that's what this show is really all about. So the scores for this, for originality, let's see, Duck, you gave it a 5.
Yeah.
So can you explain that one a little bit?
I don't think there has ever been a show like this, and there will ever be another show like this. It's a completely unique concept. So I gave it a 5.
Sadar, you gave it a 4.
Yeah, I don't know if there would ever be another show like Shimoneta, but I couldn't give it a perfect score just because dystopian future, which is what this is, has been such an incredibly popular genre in a lot of different mediums lately that I couldn't give it full marks, but the core concept is very unique.
See, now I gave it a 5, and yes, dystopian futures. Everything's a dystopian future. Oh my lord, everything. This is taking that genre, and you're kind of going a completely different direction with it. This is the whole concept of the show. The show starts out with a bunch of guys finding a stash of porno mags, and the most elite SWAT team you've ever seen busts through the windows and arrests them and burns everything on the spot after taking pictures of it. So that was kind of fun. It's like, wait a minute, what? okay, whatever. But so they get rid of all the materials, and that's how the show progresses. And we've seen shows with the like the Minority Report and things of that nature with anything to keep the social normatives intact. And this is just taking one aspect of that and running way over the top with it. So I did give it a 5. I think it was very original concept, and I really enjoyed it. But heading back to our scores, this is where we're going to start to see some deviations just a little bit. So, Sadar, you gave this story a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I penalized a little bit because of the love triangle that develops, and that I think is an overused method of story writing, the love triangle, and that, well, it definitely added a lot of fun and funny to the story. I It's just not really my thing.
It's true, but I think it was kind of crucial to there. But because I gave it this a 4. There was a couple aspects of the story that were just kind of like, and especially near the end. This is a 12 episode series. It could have easily been a 10. It just cut the last 2 episodes out because they made absolutely no sense and they didn't need to be there. I think what it is, they said we're going to pay for 12 episodes, and the animators were like, we only have 10 episodes worth of content. They just made up something for the last 2 because it didn't fit. What did you think of the last 2 episodes, Doug? Did you?
So there's only, I thought episode 11 needed to be in there. That's how they wrap up the whole antagonist story. But the final episode is like, they're like, oh yeah, we resolved all that. Oh, and now there's this random other adventure we got to go on.
Yeah, and it really was just for one episode. It was like, why did we do this? But for story, you gave this one a 3 there, Ducky. What do you think?
So yeah, like I said in my original thoughts, is it's close to saying something really important. And this, I probably take points off here because I don't like a lot of dirty jokes. I mean, who doesn't like 1 or 2? I'll jump in there and tell jokes sometimes, but I
have evidence of that because I have some stuff on video.
Every time you turn around and there's something really obnoxious going on with one of the characters. They're all really exaggerated versions of what teenagers go through when they start going through puberty. And I think that actually takes away from the story. And maybe because the jokes weren't sitting with me, that
all the jokes sat with me.
All the jokes sat with me very well.
Yeah, I didn't like the jokes, so it probably takes to me the jokes take away from the story.
Now, in theory, there's only 3 minutes worth of dirty jokes in every episode, Doug. Just want to point that out.
Not including the intro and the credits,
which are spectacular. I love, and here's the thing: in a show that is completely and utterly lewd and full of just filth, none of the characters are drawn overly sexualized. The only thing that you really get is with Ayame, the head of the terrorist organization, is when she's in school and not acting like a complete perv. If you notice, her skirt is ankle length. But as soon as she starts acting like a perv, it can even be in the same scene, it comes up to thigh length.
Oh, I never noticed that.
It switches. It's just like somebody flipping a light switch. So when she's in pervert mode, the skirt goes up. But you don't have the accentuated breast. You don't have all the jumping physics, except when they're making a joke with Anna in a couple in instances.
Yeah, Anna's really the only character that gets, sexualized at all.
Yeah.
And when White Snow is, in her garb.
Well, it's Blue Snow, but
Blue Snow. Yeah.
But even when she's in her terrorist garb, they're not actually showing anything. She's completely covered. That's the thing.
The female body isn't the focus of most of what's going on.
Yeah.
I want to just interject here for a second and say that I would say that the Tanukichi was kind of sexualized in some of the episodes. And for a genre that normally hypersexualizes the female characters exclusively, I thought that was kind of cool.
All right, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
So for artwork, Duck gave this a 2.
Yeah. So based on hearing how you guys have reviewed some of the other shows, it has me starting to look for different stuff that I wasn't looking for in artwork. Like I was mostly looking for colors and, you know, how things are, like how they move and stuff. But something I caught watching this that I couldn't, like, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, is their mouths. Their mouths are like tiny little shapes that move up and down, and then sometimes they have like one tooth in them. You know, it's just like one white line going across.
I'm gonna have to relook at that. I didn't notice it.
So that started to bother me. So I started to go look into other animes, and I can see each individual tooth. Like in Naruto, you can see their teeth, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not something that I just ruined anime forever for me. I don't know how often it's done like this, but that's one thing that started to bother me. And then I really didn't like the censorship they did. Like, I understand why it's there, and I'm sure it's pretty funny to most people, but seeing like a colorful sticker floating around the screen takes away from the normal looking background.
Okay. Now that one I'm going to fight you on, and I'm going to debunk it a little bit.
Okay.
So what happens is, with censorship laws in Japan and the United States are very, very different animals, but during certain time periods, there are certain things that must be censored. Like, for instance, you cannot show aroused genitalia, period. That's one of the big things. So a lot of times you have to censor that for a television release. So a lot of times, like especially with Funimation, if you do the Funimation now, you'll see different versions of the show. So there are the uncut, and then there is the simulcast. The simulcast ones are the ones that are broadcast on Japanese television, so they will have those censor marks. And I think a lot of times they do that with they use a little chibi of the character, and they'll incorporate that into the censor mark just because it's comical.
Oh, so that's normal.
That is normal.
Okay.
Now, if you were to watch the uncut version, a lot of the censorship is removed, except there are times they still keep it in there for comedic value. And that's in this case is the little Okama or Anna or whatever, or Blue Snow chibis are used as censors, and it's for comedic value.
Well, I didn't like it.
And that's fair.
Sadar, you gave this a 4 for artwork.
I did. I gave it a 4 because I've seen this anime so many times that I've never really noticed anything like Duck mentioned that bothers me while I'm watching it. I like the little details like Blue Snow's skirt, and I like the kind of subtle teases of seeing more than what you actually see. I'm thinking of when Tanuki Chi body slams somebody and, you know, suddenly the chibi pops up, or, you know, whatever it is. I enjoy those little elements.
Well, I gave it a 3, and the only reason I did is it was not of a high caliber value for the artwork. It wasn't as though they were trying to make something like the battle scenes in the newest Alicization episodes. They're more low budget, but it's not so much so that it's hard to watch. I like it. There's certain aspects where they could have done a little bit better, but it doesn't. I don't think it takes away from the show at all. So depth, we all kind of scored this pretty low. Sadar, you scored this a 3 on depth, and you were the highest scorer.
Well, like Duck's been mentioning, I do think that they were trying to achieve some social commentary here, and I think to a certain degree they did achieve that. You know, complete cleaning of sexuality out of a society is not just boring, but it's unhealthy, and I think they did do a good job of demonstrating that. But I just think that a lot of the message got kind of covered by the lube making jokes and things like that.
All right, Duck, you gave this a 2.
Yeah, I actually organized my thoughts here. So, first thing that started to make me upset was Anna is just like a superhero, and it's supposed to be like the real world. Like she jumps like off the top of a building and like lands on her feet and keeps running.
No,
or,
can we talk about when she jumps off the cliff and there's a rainbow?
Yeah,
Yes, can we?
that's another thing. And they literally said, "Oh, don't worry, she'll be fine because of her superhuman strength." And then like she just punches through a bathroom wall, like tile,
Well,
multiple
that's
layers of wall.
dude, that's pent up frustration right there.
No, it's not. This is supposed to be the real world, right? So
Not really.
that bothered me. And then the whole idea of the collars is like a completely wasted concept because they gave them workarounds. Like, so they have the collars on, right? We see people get arrested because of what they say while they're using the collars. But then they have the workaround with the phone. And then she made a comment about being able to say whatever she wanted when she had her mask on over her mouth. So it's like there's not actually any they removed all the consequence of the dirty jokes.
Yeah, there are definitely aspects where the main terrorist, IMA, she has a cell phone that her father gave her that when open allows her to completely negate the PMs for 3 minutes a day total. There's a lot of times though where she does not have that phone out and she's still chirping. Yeah. Yep. They didn't pull the phone out nearly enough to constitute some of the stuff she was saying. Now a lot of it is complete innuendo. There's another character that's in the school, the head of the science club, who is Fuka, and she is completely bonkers. I mean, I really don't know how to put it.
She really liked her character.
Oh, I loved her character. Don't misinterpret.
That made the most sense to me in that world.
But she knew the words, but she'd stop herself right at the last second and then change it to like fun stick, stuff like that. And it was hilarious to me. But I think this comes back to what you're saying about they were trying to make a point, and I think they actually did make a point, but not in that they're making a point about Japanese culture, not American culture. But I'm looking at this from being someone who grew up, in America. We, as a society, for some reason, can't ever talk about two things. We can't talk about sex and we can't talk about death. Can't do it. We're terrified of both. We're afraid that our children are going to see a boob and it's going to drive them completely crazy, or they're just going to start humping legs. And I just don't understand why that is. We still have a stick up our ass. And I can turn on regular television right now, and I guarantee you I can find something where someone is getting their head chopped off, and a gallon of blood's all over the place. We can see people getting shot, on channel after channel after channel. We can see people, beating, children. There is so much that we see on our television. But God help us if we ever see a nipple. Oh my Lord, if we see a nipple. A female nipple, I'm sorry. But God help us, if we see a freaking nipple, we're just going to start humping air. I'm like, it just doesn't...
Tell us what you really think, Raz.
When was the last time you saw a nipple?
This morning. But... Okay. But with Japanese culture, we've had this concept that they're just completely uninhibited, extreme perverts. In reality, it's not. It's their way of getting around censorship laws. Like, for example, we have, with Americans' concept, when you tell them hentai, they're thinking automatically one thing. What is it, Duck?
Wait, what?
Tentacles.
Tentacles. Sadar got it. If I mention hentai, you're thinking tentacle porn right off the get. Why? Because, like I said earlier, they cannot show aroused genitalia. So what's the way around it? We need something phallic. So we use a tentacle. And that's where that kind of stuff comes from. It's workarounds. And, I'm actually considering doing a whole episode on the history of hentai. So look forward to that, Duck. And
it's not as weird as I thought it was. You just like...
You blew his mind, Raz. You totally blew his mind. Like, you could see it in the video.
You're really good.
Did you see the switch?
But it's their way of working around. But here, it's a cultural difference between Japan and the United States, and the same thing that happened in Europe. In Europe, there's no real violence on television, but they can show boobs. That's about all they can show. Occasionally you'll see an unflaccid penis, but that's about it. Whereas with Japanese culture, it's pretty much anything goes as long as you don't. There's like a very small list of things you don't show. With us, like I said, I can show people getting decapitated, skinned alive, and walking around in an Edgar suit. But God forbid we see a nipple. Oh my! Every once in a while, we're like, "Oh my God, we saw a butt! Oh, naughty!"
He touched the butt.
He touched the butt. So my score for depth was 2, only because I thought they could have done more to talk about those things, but also the fact that the storyline was kind of like, we're not going to tell you why this came about, other than the explanation during the intro. We're not going to tell you how things work. There just wasn't a whole lot of world building. It was just kind of like, here you go. So
can I point out a big plot hole too that I'm thinking?
You can try.
Where are the kid? Like, what happens to the kids when they become like 25 or 30 and get married? Do nobody gets married and nobody has any kind of intercourse at all anymore? Is that what?
They don't really explain that, but if you look at people, the adults are still wearing the PMs. So you even have IMA's mother, when she's there to get the signatures to start the new ex-prohibition law, she's still wearing the PMs. So
Right.
the adults do it. I think it's one of those things where everyone knows, but they don't talk about it.
So like, well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
They don't explain
you're-
it. They don't explain it, and that's a big plot hole.
If you remember, the science student was banned from standing outside any of the OBGYNs in the country or in the city, asking pregnant mothers how they became pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty heavily implied in there that the high school students in this school are the first generation to grow up
Right.
under the new laws. So I don't think they insinuated whether or not that little caveat had been worked out yet. Like, do they get a birds and bees talk when they graduate, or do they just get to find out by surprise on their wedding night?
Yeah, because there's one point where Fuka's asking, you can tell me about this, and he's like, well, why are you asking me? You have the same textbooks I have. When a man and woman love each other very much, they get to hold hands. So
they no less than a balloon apart from each other.
no more. Yeah. So, but going into bingeability, Sadar, you gave this a 5.
Oh yeah, I did. I've binged the heck out of this more than once.
I gave this also a 5 because I too have watched this in depth. It's one of those shows where I need something to watch. I can't find anything new. What can I rewatch? Shimoneta. It has, once it's been on my queue, it has never come off. Now, Duck, you gave this a 1.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I didn't like it, so I didn't want to watch it. So I didn't binge it.
So this is your chance, Duck. What was the big thing you hated about this show?
Mostly just the dialogue. Like, what's the main girl?
IMA.
IMA. Her dialogue. I think she was the worst.
I loved her dialogue.
She was the one trying to say the most important thing, but then she ruined. Like, it just took everything away from it by not being able to take it seriously. So, that's what I hated the most.
You have a rebuttal for him, Sadar?
See, I think that her saying those things after making her point was also her not taking seriously how seriously society was taking this. Does that make sense?
It does.
It was like a renegade, just all around renegade and refusal of the seriousness of lewd acts and lewd language.
Well, she's also showing the fact that she has no respect for these laws at all, because she is, every single joke she makes is illegal. She's breaking the law every single time. And there's one scene where they're trying to get to a porn stash held in Yatsuka Forest, and their plan looks like, okay, it's not going to happen. And she goes, no, I'm going through with it. I know I'm going to get caught. I know I'm going to jail. I'm going through with it because that's what I need to do. And then she tells a dirty joke.
Yeah.
Well, and she threw in a lot of variety too. I mean, she could have wasted all of her 3 minutes every day just saying the same word over and over and over again, but she really put a lot of effort into her innuendos and dirty jokes.
There's a very rich vocabulary.
I do love it. At one point, she's trying to tell a joke, and it falls flat, and she literally just starts right over where she's at and tells a different one.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tanuki, she's like, you don't get to just start over because your joke was awful.
Yeah.
How many times have we told Duck that?
True. We have gone silent many a time with Duck jokes. So
I still laugh.
You still laugh. So once we go through, we tally up the scores and come up with our meta score. I believe we came up with a 3.4 out of 5. So that leaves us with a total of 3 Tanuki-Chi censorship bars out of 5. Okay, Duck, so we're going to start with... No, we're not. We're not going to start with you. We're going to start with Sadar. Sadar, do we watch it now, put it in our queue, or forget we ever heard about it?
You watch it now and at least once a year forever.
Okay, Duck. All right, Ducky. Put it in your queue. Watch it now. Never speak of it again.
Never speak of it again. Sorry. Thumbs down.
I'm saying you go out and watch it right now, and you put it in your queue, and you come back and watch it again and again and again. This show is gold.
Fool's gold.
Oh, you're a fool. All right, folks, thank you very much. That has been the Untitled Anime Show for Shimoneta, and we hope you come back and watch us each and every time. Just hit like, subscribe, and hopefully you like our YouTube channel because we have tons and tons of content for anime, gaming, Pokemon, you name it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great week.